Yeah, baby girl, you're so damn fine, though. Wanna know if I can hit it from behind, though. I'm sipping on you like some fine wine, though. When it's over, I press rewind, though. Talking bands, I got it. Benjamins in my pocket. I traded my truth for some robins, and he's playing.
All right, everybody, we're back for another Archons Corner. I'm Dr. Sheep. We got Big Z.
Hey.
And Ewok with us today.
Hello, keyforge community.
And today, our primary topic is going to be the Dark Tidings spoilers, because, well, that's what we can find to talk about. So, if you're not into spoilers, we'll tell you exactly when we're jumping into that, which will be pretty quick here.
So order of business, though, the, what Amber Rush, Sweet 16, every time I try to say that name, I can't remember it right. We should have named it better. Anyway.
We let Wookie do it, so.
Yeah, we blame Wookie. So, yeah, anyway, the event, we're still going. I believe we're releasing YouTube videos roughly every other day. Our goal is to get a majority of them up between now, all of them up between now and the finals. I still need to finalize my competitors to do the live stream finals, and we will make sure that you all know exactly when and how you can log in to watch that live. I think we're aiming for September 1st. Next cast, we will get the official date and time for you. And I'm not going to say who it's going to be because y'all haven't watched the videos yet.
It's pretty exciting.
I've seen a lot of great matches. I love keyforge, always have. As y'all know, we normally do focus on official play, so it is obviously not official play, but getting to see the competitors play their decks at this high of a level again, it's exciting. It's fun to see. I've enjoyed it.
As have I. So, yeah, those round one is just about finished going up, and our round two games, or the competition gets even more intense, will be coming out next week.
Yep. What else we got going on in the keyforge world before we go into spoilers? Dan, you're an OP guy. You keep up with all that. Where are we at with OP?
OP is a bigger disaster today than it was last week. We are now on officially 3 weeks from our announcement of 2 weeks for an announcement. That isn't there. And then chain bounds that have been run, apparently like for the last week, nobody's seen them upload to the Master Vault, which means no chains are getting hung and no Amber Shards are getting banked. So now OP isn't even OP. I mean, like some of us, Wookie, are still missing shards from events in October of 19. So
September of 19.
September of 19. So you're never getting those. So what's the chance we ever get these? Who knows?
It's somewhere around the chance that you forge a key with Redacted and Epic Quest and 0. That's the chance.
That's a new scale?
Yeah, yes.
We'll call it the keyforge scale.
Yeah, the keyforge scale. Yeah, and Ball Warrior is also somewhere on that scale, guys. Like, never mind.
That's under 0?
Low. Okay. Anyway, that's the OP side of the news.
Yeah, it's sad.
All right, let's get into something positive. Regardless of where OP is at and how we will officially get to play this, there's great stuff coming out. There's great stuff in MM. Let's take a little peek forward. So if you don't like the spoilers, well, I guess you're turning off the channel or whatever. Because we'll go watch some videos. Let's go watch some YouTube videos. They're great. Let's get into what's this like? It's called Dark Tidings, Dark Tides, whatever it is.
Dark Tidings.
Here we go.
Again, big thank you to Arcana. We're using your website to look at all these sweet spoilers. So if you guys are wondering exactly what the cards look like, that's a good place to find them.
Mm-hmm. And they are, so we're obviously only going to be saying the English versions. A lot of these have been translated through some way via their website already for us, which is awesome. I don't speak any language other than English. So yes, that's helpful.
Yes, and even my English is suspect at times.
Oh, we know.
And as some of these cards have been taken from the actual videos, there are parts that may be cut off due to how they were showcasing the cards. So some cards may adjust slightly, but we'll give you as much information as we can.
Yes, and some were just spoilers from screenshots that FFG released officially. And as we know, they stack their cards sometimes, so some of them are literally just covered up by other things, and we don't know all the effects because of that as well. So card 000. This is the card that everyone needs to know about. It's probably the most important card of the set. What does it? Is it really just called the Tide? I guess
it is called the Tide, and it is a communal card, a shared card between you and your opponents, and everyone's going to get one in every single Dark Tidings deck. So we're going to see a lot of this card.
I'm only going to play games if we get to use my Tide card. I'm not using your Tide card.
I think that we should play your format where we have to tear it up, but we just tear up the Tide card because we'll have so many of them.
Well, so they are going to be
I realized every deck came with this card until just now.
Yeah. They are going to be named to the deck, so the deck name is going to be on there. So if you lose the Tide card, technically you don't have a complete deck anymore. Don't think that matters, but the Tide cards will be named to the deck, but I think they also said the back isn't going to be the Archon art, it's going to be something else.
I also heard that as well.
I wonder if it's going to be a chain tracker. I could see him doing that.
All right. Well, either way, interesting enough that it's called the Tide. It starts off as a neutral Tide, although that is not indicated anywhere on the card, but I believe that will be in the rule set. It has an Omni ability that any player can use. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of this.
It's only if you're the low Tide side.
Okay. If you're the low Tide side, you have access to the Omni ability that says raise the Tide, which then will become high, and you will gain 3 tides, 3 chains. So I assume if it is in neutral, either player can use the Omni.
I believe that's correct.
Okay. And basically it is one of those cards that its text is facing the person that's affecting. So if you are the low Tide, if you look at it directly, the proper aligned text for you will say low Tide. If you're a high Tide, when you are reading it, the words high Tide will be properly aligned on your side of the table, and you would be able to use the Omni action to flip it. Oh yeah, that's actually where it is. So if you're reading it, the Omni part is only on the low Tide. And this basically does nothing if you are in set 1, set 2, and set 3 and playing against someone else that is set 1, set 2, or set 3, other than for one anomaly, and set 4, and in Worlds Collide. There's one anomaly card in Worlds Collide where this would affect if you're not playing in the set. But even then, that anomaly could only get triggered against a set 5 deck, right?
Right, because it says as long as the Tide is not low, his thing triggers, so you would never affect the Tide unless you're playing in set 5.
Yeah, so...
Well, as a player... No, you can't even make it so you have low Tide. So is there a way to set low Tide for yourself so you can...
There's not, so yeah. All right. So I guess in the sets, that's the basic... So that is the core mechanic. So just like we had Enhance in set 4, we had Ward and Exalt in set 3, we had a bunch of other bad mechanics in set 2.
Deploy.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
That's what we have in set
Reap Stun?
5. Yeah, like Reap Hate is really what we had in key manipulation.
So this set has, as we look forward, it has a lot of creature slowdown hate in it again, so we will see how we feel that. But how do we feel? I mean, like, do we want to go into the Tide mechanic and how we really feel about it?
Well, let's
or do we want to stay positive
first and then see? Well, I want to give them the cards because then, to be honest, I probably looked at way less than I needed to than you guys. So let's talk about the cards, and then we can come back to how we feel about the Tide and then what the core mechanic is. So we know the core mechanic is going to be based on this Tide mechanism, and then we'll start to get an identity for the set. So, I mean, we're just going to go in order here. So card 001 is Armadrone. Unfortunately, we don't know much about this. Well, we know most of it. We know it's a Logos creature. We know it's an evil twin. So someone other than me, tell us what evil twin is. Or did y'all? We haven't done that, right?
Not today.
Okay.
Not today. If you're catching in, if you haven't been here before, One of the other new pieces that's coming in with Dark Tidings is that we will have Evil Twin decks. So that is, the card list will be identical between 2 different Archon cards, except one of those is going to be turned to Evil Twins, and that deck will have creatures that will go ahead and actually have different attributes, different powers. Sometimes it's just changing the power, but you'll see them marked with kind of a black background, and it'll say Evil Twin.
Will the deck name be the same?
I believe yes, and it'll say Evil Twin on the Archon card
On the
somewhere.
back of the Archon?
But that is just an assumption. I do not know. I wonder
Okay.
if half the Archon art would all be black, like a black background in your Archon art. That'd be cool.
That would be pretty cool. Like,
Well,
that
the
would be a distinct identifier.
Yeah. The other question was, we see identification for Mavericks, for anomalies, for gigantic creatures. Is an Evil Twin going to be have a special marking of that sort? And that is a good question to ask.
If you look at some of the other full art, yes, they have a funny little like skull head, I think, instead of a standard rarity symbol.
Nice. All right, well, that'll be interesting to know. So let's talk about this creature. It's the Armadrone. It's a Logos creature. We know it's 3 power. We do not know if it has armor or not. I would assume it does due to the name and being Armadrone.
See, I think it's
does look
because
like
it
a
has so
robot.
many arms.
Maybe. Like, I think it probably has 1 or 2 armor.
I hope
We
so.
don't know that. If it doesn't have armor, it's actually fairly bad. If it does have armor, it's pretty good. It's a 3 power creature with Fight Steel 2. So it's like a super bat drone. Real good if it has any form of armor. It's still decent because of all the elusive stuff that still floats around. 3 power is obviously a little bit harder to kill than a bat drone. And the fact that it's Steel 2 and not 1, guys, like that's a pretty big swing.
Yeah, but it's missing the skirmish, so if you're against a meteor board, it's real bad.
Yeah. So I think this falls average to like somewhere between below average to above average, depending on whether it actually has armor or not. We can't have a way to know that right now. But anyway, I mean, like, I don't mind seeing these creatures in Logos. Logos has always had questionable amounts of amber control throughout all of the sets, except for Worlds Collide, where you had eddies and all kind of nonsense. So I do like the idea of this being there. I was never a big fan of Batdrone, but I still think it has to be there in some extent. The next one, we have Old Egad. We know very little about this one. We know it as it's a Logos creature, 3 power, no armor. So, but the gist of the card is it's a destroyed effect creature. We know it's destroyed effect. It has a destroyed effect, but we don't know what that destroyed effect is.
So look forward to Old Egad, and we know nothing about him.
All right, Dan, take us to the next one. This one we know everything about.
Yeah, so Tide Warp is an artifact with an amber on it, and it has the little tide symbol, so there's these little tide symbols on all the cards in the set, which means it interacts with the tide in some way. It's just an indicator, so when you go to do it, or when the tide changes, you know to look at the card. And it says, at the start of your turn, if the tide is high, your opponent raises the tide. Otherwise, you raise the tide. So this just switches the tide back and forth every turn.
Yeah, so this is one of those dual-sided cards. It goes back to the lines of Speed Sigil and to today's new hotness of Curia. It affects both people. It's positive and negative. Honestly, until I know more about the tide mechanic, like, I don't really know where to put this. Like, this could be bad. This could be a completely neutral card. Like, honestly, if your opponent is in any other set than set 5, it's bad, right? Like,
yeah, if you're not set 5 is bad, but in set 5, this seems like
it could be real good against
probably
another
real
set
good.
5, but is obviously very bad if you're playing against set 1, 2, 3, or 4, which is 80% of the set. So, like,
yeah, every other turn you just lose your tide without.
Yeah, so this sounds bad to me, and now that I think about it in that terms, because while I'm playing Open Archon, I mean, there's a good chance that most of the decks aren't going to be from set 5, right? Like, that's just math. So this sounds real bad at Open Archon. Maybe it's a great sealed card. Hard to tell until we know more about the tide. All right, you're up next, JR. Do next.
All right.
Because I don't want to say that name.
Card number 34, Binary Moray. And this is a Logos creature with 5 power, 0 armor. And then as we're looking at it, it has AI and Beast as the attributes listed, which is very interesting. There's the 2 little tide mechanic symbols, and one says, after you raise the tide, ready Binary Moray. And
all right, so let's talk about that for a second. Like, so that only matters if you're able to raise it during your turn. So you either did the Omni effect or you had some other way to do it, right?
Correct. Or if you start with Tide Warp, where it starts your turn, and if you had it high, it raises it, being able to switch.
But your creature should already be ready, which we'll talk about.
Well, until you read the second half of this card.
Okay.
So the second half then says, with the little tide icon, after your opponent raises the tide, exhaust Binary Moray.
Interesting.
And it has Reap, archive a card. And so what's interesting about this card to me is I think that if you can go ahead and there are individual cards that are going to come out in this set for Dark Tidings, which will, by playing a card, raise the tide. And so you could potentially use the Reap, archive a card, and then with the tide going to high tide, all of a sudden now be able to ready and use it again.
Yeah. And like, this is a 5 power version of Ganymede Archivist. Ganymede Archivist is a good card. It just is.
Yeah.
It's a relatively high value, even like, I mean, yes, there's a lot of times where he'll just die or whatever, but I mean, he's near witch level good in some decks because of the power of archiving. Being able to potentially reap twice on this guy in one turn and archiving 2 cards, that's a lot of that's a lot of efficiency on a really beefy creature. 5 power is kind of high. If they're going to kill it like they would the Ganymede Archivist in most cases, they're spending a lot more effort than they were before.
And I can go ahead and add in the Tide Warp does come out as a rare, and this Binary Moray actually comes out as an uncommon.
All right, so they'll be there. In some decks, they'll have 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah, this card seems fine. He seems like he'll be pretty good against non-set 5.
All right, so I've seen this one before. I like this one. I'll do this one. Forgive or Forget is card 40. We are still in Logos. It is an action. It has a play effect. It says play, then choose 1 : So you pick one of these play effects. The first play effect option is archive 2 cards of different types from your discard pile. I like that a lot. The second option is purge up to 2 cards from each discard pile. I also like that a lot. I think even though they're not losing Amber, the power that Infernus has in games, the more I see it played, and the more I see it played against very, very good Coda combo decks, the higher Infernus goes up on my value list. And here you have a card that can either set up your combo immediately or shut down their recursion combos immediately, and potentially thin your own deck with what you're purging out of yourself. This is a strong card. I like this card a lot. It can do a lot of things, both sides of the table. It doesn't give you an Amber, so that's important to note. But just that this being one of these things or the other, and both of them being somewhat significant. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I like Logos. This stuff right here.
That is big time recursion. Like if you use it for the archive from your discard.
Yeah, and then there are certain decks that you're playing against, you'll never use the bottom part. But there are really good decks in this game right now. The bottom part can very significantly shut them down.
I want to.
Yeah.
This is coming in as an uncommon. I like to see this. I actually think from a game design standpoint, I like the choice. So
this is actually a card that I don't know if you'd want 3 copies of.
It gets, I don't know. I mean,
like that would be a lot of. Either you're making a real nasty, dirty archive, or you're purging out a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It seems like too many copies of this could actually start to be...
What's an uncommon? So, I mean, you'll see a lot of decks that have 2 of them. There will be some that have 3, but that's going to be very rare. And then there might be one of ever printed that has 4. Or something like that. I mean, that's where the way the math falls, assuming enough decks get scanned in and generated. All right, Dan, you're up.
All right, so we got... we're switching over to Sanctum. The first card we have here is Larry of the Lake. I don't know, it's that AE Aether's sign. But he's a 3-power creature. He's a human knight, no armor. And he has the tide mechanic that says, while the tide is high, he gets +5 armor. I'm going to say this card is boring.
I'm about to say, it's just boring. It's very Coda-esque type of card. It is important to note that it's an evil twin. So, like, actually, that's weird.
We could go down into the next card. Yep.
Yeah, so we do know what the original is. So let's flip over to that one, and then we'll go back in order. So, JR, you go ahead and hit the other version of Larry of the Lake.
So card 115, Larry of the Lake. Again, another Sanctum, and this is a creature, 3 power, human knight. So all the characteristics the same there. What you're noticing is the actual text, and there's a little tide icon. It says, while the tide is high, each friendly creature gets +2 armor.
So that's really good.
At a common? Like, your guys could get real tough.
So that's interesting to me because until this card, I've only seen a few of them, but what I had seen released, all the Evil Twins were better than the original. But in this scenario, Evil Twin Larry of the Lake is garbage. Like that's Coda level creature garbage. Larry of the Lake is better than any armor creature we've seen, period. Like, the best we've had was Grey Monk from set 1. And then we've gotten Aban the Armor Smith, and there was also the Mars dude that gave armor. None of them were all my creatures get 2 armor.
Yeah, which includes himself.
Yeah, that includes himself. That's why Grey Monk was better than Aban.
2 of these down. Oh boy.
Yeah, at common, you can have 3 or 4. Like, that's not uncommon, to see. Like Larry of the Lake is real good, especially in the house that he's in. That makes all kinds of weird stuff happen. Like, if you get 2 of these in play, that means you can play stuff like all creatures take 4 damage and not care. Like, that's pretty sick.
This is definitely a tide effect that in many situations you will end up...
You would gain a lot of chains to keep this tide effect.
Right, you would take the 3 chains to take this off so you could actually use your damage cards.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
it would make that Steel 2 fight creature we just talked about real good. Yes. I mean, like, that's a significant amount of armor, especially uncommon when you can see however many in your deck.
So it is interesting that this is, I mean, although armor is often thought of defensive, this is clearly offensive armor because it is very easy to take it away on my turn, right? So I can take your armor away for 3 chains. So this isn't going to keep your guys alive against Red Alert or something like that. This is really going to work well with fight effects.
Yeah, the interesting thing that I'm going to want to see is how well does this set navigate chains internally? Because obviously the set is, you're going to be incurring a lot of chains naturally because of the tide mechanic, whereas there's some other sets that we know don't do well with chains, like the archiving. While there are some decks in Coda that archive really well, like, they don't deal as well with chains for most Coda decks as, say, Worlds Collide, or even the decks I'm seeing that have the super fast, like the uber fast logos. So, like, this could hurt Coda stuff way more than some of the other sets that we've seen, just because of the chain passing back and forth. Because a lot of Coda decks just start to really suck when they get a bunch of chains. So we'll see.
I'm going to be real sad when you get the Evil Twin Triple Larry on the Lake deck.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you have but you would know, I don't know. Like, the Evil Twin thing is weird to me. This is the first card that I saw where the original was way better than the Evil Twin, though. I've seen some that were similar. The first ones I saw were like, well, I definitely would rather have the Evil Twin. Well, my next card I don't have much information on, but I'll go ahead. It is another Evil Twin. It's Seneschal Sargassa. It is a 6-power, 0 armor Sanctum Spirit Knight. We don't know what its card effects are. All we know is it does have a tide effect, and in the version that we're seeing, this is the Evil Twin. There is a chance that the original does have a different power and armor, but we don't know that because we do not have access to the original version of this yet. Who's next? Dan, you're up.
I mean, it is cool, too. If you look, the Evil Twins have different but directly related art. So that's pretty cool to see too.
Oh, yeah. There's pictures in this game?
Yeah. Yes, Z, there are pictures in this game, and apparently some people really like them.
Oh, I didn't notice.
All right. So our next card is called Dry the River, an artifact power-based coming out of Sanctum. It's another rare card. And its tide effect is each creature gains while the tide is low. This creature cannot reap.
So, like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, if you play this against, like, a Coda deck, they obviously... Oh, actually, Coda might not care.
Oh, a Worlds
But
Collide
if you
deck.
play this against the Worlds Collide deck or an MM deck, we've talked about it a lot recently. Like, once OP comes back, we're probably going to see a meta shift where, like, you got the old school Coda that don't have creatures on the board battling against these two newer waves of Worlds Collide and MM where you have to have creature control all the time because they flood the board and all the people reap and do all kinds of crazy things. MM and Worlds Collide, they would have to raise the tide every turn you lower it for them, or they will loot. Like, they can't afford to have this in play.
Like this in combination with the Tide Warp against Offset is pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Right? Because then you lower it, or you raise it for yourself so your guys can reap, and then at the start of my turn, I just take it back. So it's just every turn,
or
three
they choose
chains.
to never get the reap every other turn. Like, yeah, like that's rough.
Like, you'll really have to be able to do some math and decide how many ambers worth 3 chains. Because one creature for just 1 amber probably not worth 3 chains.
Well, but that said, Worlds Collide's Logos is the Logos that I'm talking about. Like, a lot of the more competitive decks have the tools that they need to not care about those chains. But if it's Worlds Collide deck that does not have Logos, I do not see them being able to, like, chain themselves that way.
Yeah.
Like, they're already getting chains from stuff like Axiom, right?
And this is just one of several cards we're going to talk about here that just stop creatures from doing anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad to see it's a rare because I don't want to see a lot of it.
Well, and again, it's an artifact. So even with all the R that we're seeing come in MM, if you're facing sets 1 through 3, it's probably going to stick and stay there.
Well, even with how much we've talked about, there seemed like there was a lot more artifact hate in MM. I am not feeling it. Like, I keep looking at decks and going, oh god, why don't I have any artifact control? It still does not show up as commonly as I feel I need it to for decks to be
Well, the interesting thing is, I think I'm seeing more artifact control than any of the other sets, but the problem is the artifacts you need to shut down the most, it literally has to be destroyed. So, like borrow doesn't count. Like, it doesn't matter if I borrow your jar. Like, I still can't play my card.
Doesn't matter if I borrow your Curiosaurus.
Yeah, like, it's still like this. Dry the River does not matter if you Snack Lift or borrow this. Like, it doesn't matter if you Nexus this. Like, you must literally say, destroy this card or purge in the case of one artifact. I guess 2. 1 card. I guess Harvest Time would work too.
Artifact destruction still going to be real valuable.
Still premium. All right, JR, what's next?
Well, I just wanted to pipe in for Dry the River real quick. This card was talked a little bit about online, and when you see Star Alliance, because people are like, oh, it's Star Alliance. But if you look carefully as the tide in the background, you can actually see the Sanctum people, because this is a Sanctum. So you see your Sanctum Knights there coming out of the water.
Oh, that's
so for
cool.
all those, kind of check into it, but some really neat card arts, we can actually...
Yeah, you can see the Star Alliance battling the Sanctum dudes here. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. So on to card number 80. This is Lightsmith Clariel. And Lightsmith Clariel is a creature. And she is coming in as an angel with 5 power and 2 armor. And she has a before fight effect. And it says you may swap the power and armor values of Lightsmith Clariel for the remainder of the turn.
That's really funny. I don't think it's a good card, but it's funny.
So she can
be a 2/5?
She can be a 2/5, so yep.
She can still not kill the Massus Asp.
Massus Asp, yep.
Yeah, I don't know. Like this, I think it's better than the other Larry of the Lake, but this is not.
Maybe there will be more armor or power bonus stuff where this becomes more interesting.
Well, I guess if Larry of the Lake is down, like the good one, it would become a 4/5. Like, I don't know.
Which means she could kill 4 power creatures without taking damage. That's
And looking at this, this is another rare card. So
yeah,
you know,
this is. So I was kind of having this discussion a little bit in some of the discords on how I feel like the mass mutation rares are making much bigger impacts on the deck, and they're really powerful cards, unlike some of the other sets where the rares were weird, janky things that didn't necessarily always do good. Like, I think the mass mutation rares a lot of them are bonkers.
There's a lot of like Coda and AOA rares that are just like, what? I don't care.
And this fits right in with those. You're like, eh.
Like, the only bad cards in Worlds Collide Saurian are rares, so...
Yeah, that's good, right? But, in Mass Mutation, Eaton's Jar is a rare.
Yeah.
And it's just so powerful. And there's a few others. There's just a bunch of rares in Mass Mutation that really can make the decks.
Yeah.
So, anyways, next up is just a reprinted Bulwark, so nothing to really talk about there.
All right, then I've got card 116 is Marshall Ewer. We're still in Sanctum. This is our last Sanctum dude. It is a Spirit Knight, a creature, 4 power, 2 armor. Has a tide effect symbol associated with its play fight ability. So on play fight, raise the tide. 4 power, 2 armor, fight raise the tide. On play raise the tide. This sounds good with not knowing much about the mechanics, right? And it's printed on a comic.
There it is.
There it is. We've got our good Larry of the Lake. We've got our Marshall Ewer. The tide's going to stay on our turn. If this set has any replay abilities, that would also combo here. That's if we have any house cheating like Logos used to have, you could get your double reap from the binary moray, like we were talking about earlier. That could create some really good situations. Not sure exactly what's going on with the picture, but it does look interesting.
Yeah, this is just, I don't know. This doesn't seem like you're that exciting to me. I mean, it basically says save 3 chains.
Yeah.
Repeatedly, though. So, I guess in a long game where the tide wants to go back and forth is going to be much better. I think in a open meta, this card doesn't do much for me.
We'll see.
Yeah.
It really depends on the value of the tide in the long. I don't really know. Do we not even know the next one's full name?
Yeah, we think it's Censor Filio, and I don't know if there's really... I mean, there isn't enough on him to talk about.
Yeah, so we know that card 125 is a Saurian creature. That's really it.
Yep.
And we know his name is Censor Philo.
And he's an evil twin.
It's an evil twin without armor.
Okay, the next one is an evil twin where we have the set.
Yes. So Dan, go ahead and do the twin. Dan, start with the real one, and then JR, you do the twin. We'll do it that way.
So this thing's called Udagnathus.
Undagnathus? I don't know.
Sure.
Undagnathus. Okay. He is a Saurian 12-power beast, not a dinosaur. And the regular one says, while the tide is low, he deals no damage when fighting. So he becomes just like a lot of the other big, gigantic creatures where he's kind of junky. But that means when the tide is high, he's a 12-power creature who can...
It is important to note that he is not coming into play stunned.
Yes.
Okay.
And he can do full damage when fighting if the tide is high. Yes. Which means this guy, his standard common plays a little bit, I think, more like Lollop. Right?
Yeah, he's a slightly better version of Lollop is what's going on, I think. Maybe almost equal to him. I would say he's actually slightly better than Lollop because he would
he's not
be harder to deal with, and he's not Probnar. Sure, let's throw that out there too. Probnar arguably one of the best houses in that whole set, but it still didn't matter.
So Lollop wasn't that special. The things that made Lollop good were like a flex, which probably isn't going to exist here. So I don't know. Yeah. I mean, this is just another super big creature who, we haven't talked about Unfathomable, and that's where I think this guy's going to be important, is the size of the Unfathomable creatures. 12 power becomes meaningful. When we get to them, I think that's where this thing's going to be the most meaningful, is that he can actually kill unfathomable creatures in one swipe.
Yeah, we'll get there. JR, talk to us about its evil twin.
All right, Evil Twin, card 130. This is Undagnathus. I can't say it again. And a Saurian creature, Evil Twin, Beast, 12 power, like its twin. And with a tide effect that says, while the tide is low, double all damage dealt to Undagnathus.
So I think in a way, the evil twin is slightly better than the other one. He can still do his damage while the tide is high or low, right?
Yeah.
He just is more vulnerable, which is fine in most cases because he's got 12 power, so you could still kill a 5-power creature and live.
Yeah, it's only like a 6-power creature can trade with him, which is probably not
Still
that big
pretty
of a deal.
good. Yeah,
Right.
like it's
I agree.
yeah, because you're still killing a champion in Nafio because obviously one armor doesn't matter. Yeah, like so the evil twin. This is what I was seeing originally. The evil twin is better than the other one by like a significant deal amount better. Because he can still do most of the things you want it to do. While the other one is, you just fight into him like he's a golem. So, in total, it's just another big creature. We've seen big creatures before. It's very similar to the one we see now with Soaring, which I constantly forget its name. It's the 12 power that doesn't come in stun, that deals 4 damage all the time.
Gladiotops.
That one, sure. Which is not terrible, but not great. Slightly below average card as far as the gameplay goes.
Yeah.
We have Charybdis and Scylla. They are both MM creatures. They both have those weird enemy creature effects. They both come together all the time, and they're back.
They've been pretty good in mass mutation, so I imagine they'll still be pretty good here.
Yep. They're obviously better the more your opponent is relying on creatures, which is pretty good against Worlds Collide and Emmett. Saurian Ship. I know it's my turn, but I think you two probably know more about these ships than I do, which is nothing.
Okay,
So y'all talk to us about ships.
Each house is going to get a ship. Each ship is going to have an action ability that lets you exhaust a different number of creatures based on the size of the ship. There's 2 printed so far that we've seen, the Saurian ship, and we'll get to the ship for Shadows.
Are they all artifacts?
They're all artifacts, so they're like shards, except they don't come linked, or that each house gets one. Each one's going to be different. I don't know. This one, the Saurian ship says action exhausts up to 5 friendly Saurian creatures, which means they have to be in play and ready. And then it says, for each creature exhausted this way, deal 1 damage to each enemy creature. So that means it could do 5 to all enemy creatures if you have 5 creatures on the board. That sounds okay. Except that's 5 reaps you didn't take. It's 5 fight actions you didn't get.
Yeah, because it literally specifies exhaust 5 friendly Saurian creatures, and then you deal that much one-sided damage to the board. I mean, I honestly could see this always be used for 1.
Yes.
And then dealing 1 damage to the entire other side of the board just to remove a bunch of wards. Like, I think there's value in that. Like, quite a bit of value in that, actually. But I could never see exhausting, like, that many of these. So, like, I don't know. This is one of those very average artifacts. Like, I wouldn't know if it's... Like, removing all of your opponent's wards on any turn is actually pretty good. Like, that's significant. But It's an artifact. It's slow. I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be good for dealing with a pile of 1 and 2 power Shadows creatures, right? After that, It's pretty bad. Because, I mean, like, what your best case scenario is on, you're player 2, and on first turn you somehow get to play this and 4 Saurian creatures, so the next turn you could do 4 damage to everything. I mean, like, you got to put this down, and then you have to take somewhere, you got to get creatures down, and then you got to go back to Saurian to do nothing but damage. And this is so slow.
There's a lot of ifs and prior to stating when this is good. It's like, now, if this and this and this are happening, then this can be good. It's just one of those very situational things.
Does get around in this set that we've seen is it gets around stun, because you're going to be able to exhaust them if they're stunned, and it gets around you can't reap, you can't fight, so you can get use out of creatures that are been stopped through other effects. that still doesn't make it good.
No. Like, maybe if these things were Omni, they'd be... I mean, if it was Omni, it'd be great.
Or
right?
if you could put other houses on it, it'd be really good.
Yeah. Yeah, like if it was not Omni or it didn't matter which creatures
Like, even if it said, like, up to 4 friendly Saurian and 1 anything, just so it could do something.
Yeah.
But
all right, JR, what's next?
All right, next card we have is card 154, Bury Riches. And this is an action card with playability with a little tide icon. It says, if the tide is high, move 1 amber from each creature to its controller's pool. Otherwise, raise the tide.
Wow. The city state in this? Man. Like, this could be potentially the best card in Saurian in this set if certain cards are also in this set.
Yeah. Like
right? This is potentially I steal all your amber in 1 turn.
Yeah, this card in Mass Mutation would be crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Except that you may have a bunch of amber on your creatures too in Mass Mutation.
That's true. Well, you want them on your creatures, right?
No, I'm saying as my opponent.
Oh, yeah. Like, if your opponent's Mass Mutation, this is probably bad for you. But even then, like, you're just trading amber. Like, I don't... Like, City State and Spoils of Battle are ridiculous. I do not know how many times I've played either one of those cards and captured literally all of my opponent's amber. Like...
Yeah.
And if either of those cards, it doesn't matter which one, if either of them exist in this set, this card is busted.
The new version Spoils of Battle, too. That's
what I mean. Like,
yeah.
I thought that's what I was saying. What I was saying?
I was only hearing City State, but okay.
Okay. I thought I was saying both of them, but either of them are there. Anyone that was complaining about, like, Tribute Exile is going to flip the table when they do this to them. Because... Like, I have multiple high-level decks that I play that have City State, and countless times, I play the card, I capture everything they got. All of it. And then I'm left to choose which creatures are capturing, because they've run out, right? Like, this card just means you steal all of their amber. Like, that's...
And it's only an uncommon, so, like, it's going to be a thing that happens.
Yeah, you're going to see 2 or 3 of them in deck, and City State is uncommon. I see lots of Spoils of Battle. I can't remember its rarity. I feel like it might be common. I see decks that have tons of them. It probably is common. I'm not going to look right now. But either way, if either of those cards are in set, you'll definitely see.
What I find interesting is even the first half of the effect is really good, right? Tide is high, move it. But say there is no amber, you can still
and
just
it's still
raise
good.
the tide.
Yeah.
So this card, real good. I like the thought of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of situational cards that are only good if, even too much to protect. Like, there's tons of times where all you're doing is getting an amber. Like, this card is pretty much always good. Yes, there are some scenarios where, like, if you're going up against an MM or some rare set 1 Coda Sanctum decks that capture a ton, where this might be a discard.
It doesn't have the amber pip, so you don't feel bad about discarding it.
Yeah, that's true. But, I mean, this is one of those cards that most of the time, you're playing this for pretty good effect, and occasionally it's going to just win a game. Like, game over. All right.
I like that it's at uncommon, so hopefully we're not seeing, 3 or 4 of them. We'll see what else is in the set, though.
Yeah. All right. Sensor Philo.
I'm curious if this is the
this is
the
definitely
regular version of the Evil Twin earlier. Yeah.
Yep, for sure.
Okay, so while we didn't know what the Evil Twin does at all, we can at least tell you what the original does. Sensor Philo is card 170. It's a Saurian creature, 5 power, no armor. It is a dinosaur politician. This is not tide related, so let's go. It's just a normal effect. Sensor Philo cannot be damaged by creatures with amber on them. So this is kind of like Ardent Hero kind of theme, like this I'm immune to certain things based on these conditions. I feel like this is actually quite a common condition against MM. Like, Sensor Philo is great against MM, right? Everything in MM always has amber on it.
There is quite a bit of amber on MM. It is coming in as a common, too, so that's an
But I feel like, this does very little against AOA, Coda, any Worlds Collide that's not Saurian, right? Like, it's just a 5 power creature in any of those. In most cases.
Yeah, no, I don't have any particular love for this card. It's a card.
Yeah, it's a card. It's
But
we've talked. The devs have told us a long time ago. Every set's going to have cards that are just kind of there to make sure the algorithm isn't just generated bustedness all the time. That's kind of where I'm fitting this guy.
I mean, at least he's 5 power, so he's not a total, infomorph when he's on the board or something. I mean, he's got
That's
something.
true. I mean, until MM, like almost all. Well, we only saw one set before, but before it, like in Worlds Collide, almost everything was bigger than.
So I kind of wonder if his evil twin says he can't do damage to creatures with amber on him or something, which would be real bad. But I don't know. But it's definitely
if it's just a positive and not tide related, I imagine the evil twin probably just has another static.
Well, it's definitely some creatures with amber on it, but who knows what.
Yeah. It might deal extra damage to them, like it might go offensive. We'll see. All right, now we're into Shadows. I think it's Stan's turn.
All right, we got Captain Nobeard. He is a 6-power elf thief, unknown armor, and he has taunt. So a 6-power taunter in Shadows.
Which we've seen that before. What I think is new, though, have we ever seen an elf that has taunt? The 2 specters do.
Yeah. No, I don't think we've ever seen a taunty elf. Okay, and then he's got a destroyed effect that says, when he's destroyed, his neighbors capture one. So, like...
I mean, overall, this is good just because it's taunt in Shadows. We've all... Like, I don't like Shieldred that much, but it is actually a lot better than I expected it to be. As far as, like, landing it to protect creatures. Yeah, people don't attack it.
Yeah, this guy is a evil twin of a rare. So, won't be a lot of them in a deck. So let's hit his rare version.
Oh, we have the normal one. JR, what's normal Captain Nobeard do?
So, normal Captain Nobeard, card number 192 is a Shadows creature. Again, elf and thief, 3 power. So instead of 6, it's 3. And it says each of Captain Nobeard's neighbors gains taunt. Reap, capture 1.
Okay, so I actually like him better.
I do not like him at all.
Really?
So he gives his neighbors taunt, which there will be situations where making a creature taunt can be really good because they have...
Oh, he doesn't have deploy. Huh.
And he captures 1, which means he is the classic Coda Bank, right? I mean, like, he's Sequus, sort of. He's just like, I'm going to capture some amber. Now, there are cards like we saw, like Berry Riches, which in a deck with him could maybe do something, but Reap, capture 1, and then you can just get it. I don't know. He doesn't do a lot to me.
I don't know. I kind of like them both. After like really thinking about that, if he had deploy, I think he'd be better than his evil twin. But without deploy, I mean, just taunt in Shadows is significant. I think it always will be significant. I think I'd rather have the evil twin here. But I think they're actually,
like evil twin.
In my mind, they're closer than I think in value than Dan did. But we'll see. We'll see. You gotta play with them. But they're rare, so who knows?
And he looks way more badass as an evil twin.
Sure, there are pictures. Yep. All right, so I think it's me. Freebooter Fae is card 185, still Shadows. It is a creature, 4 power, no armor, another elf thief, as most Shadows creatures are. As a tide-focused play effect. On play, raise the tide. So here's another creature that we're seeing that can raise the tide as a play effect. It also has an additional tide effect of before fight. If the height is high, it's kind of cut off, but we're assuming it means gain 1 amber, I think.
Oh, it could be lose 1 amber. You never know.
Well, it's when the tide is high. So if it was low, it would be a negative. So it should be a positive. I'm
agree.
assuming this is before, if the tide is high, gain 1 amber, but it could be capture, it could be steal, it could be some other effect with amber, but we know something happens to exactly 1 amber before the fight when you attack. It is
okay.
like pirate looking dude. I think it's just gaining amber. We could, at the very best we could hope for is steal. I doubt it. If it's steel, this is awesome. So we'll see. Because he raises the tide himself on play. I think the tide is going to be significant in the sum of things. So I think all these dudes with on play raise the tide are pretty high value in set. Potentially really good against out of set. All right, Dan. This is another boat.
Yeah, the Archon's Revenge, which is the Shadow Ship. It has action, exhaust up to 2 friendly Shadows creatures. For each creature exhausted this way, steal 1.
Okay, why is the other one so bad? Because that's amazing.
Again, it still suffers from the slowness, but
sure,
the fact
but
that
like,
you can
if I have
turn
an artifact that steals 1 every time, that's fine.
Yeah, you
That's
can
cool.
turn any crappy Shadows action creature into a steal is pretty good.
Like, my Urchins become steal 1 in future turns forever? Yes, sign me up.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
this one, I think, arguably better, but still slow.
Yeah.
I still don't think the ships are going to be hugely... Well, we'll see. I mean, like, Logos could be action, draw... It's probably going to be action, exhaust 1, draw 1. That could be meaningful.
Unless it's a lot. It would have to at least be 3. And even then, you're
still
giving
gotta
up
have 3
3
creatures
amber.
in place.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
All
who
right.
knows?
JR, go moving past the Evil Twin since we already talked about it.
All right, card number 239 is a creature from Shadows. It is the Sea Urchin. And the Sea Urchin is an Archon thief with 1 power. And it has a poison and a play effect. So poison, again, if you're not familiar, any damage dealt by this creature's power during a fight destroys the damaged creature. And the play is a tide effect, which is capture 1 amber. If the tide is high, steal 1 amber instead.
So what we have here is the worst form of the Urchin ever.
What? How is this
Right.
the worst form of the Urchin? So you make the tide high, which doesn't seem to be too hard in this set. So
Well,
3,
Urchin steals 1 always. This one only steals if the tide is high.
which at worst costs 3 chains. So it's
I don't know.
It's that,
Like I would
but-
still like even if it was steal 1 all the time, I would still rather elusive than poison.
see now I'm on the other end because this thing can actually do something on the board besides reap for nothing.
I would
He
rather
can still reap,
I'd
but
rather
now he
reap.
can, with the importance of creatures now, like the ability for a Sea Urchin who just stole 1 and then the next turn kills your 12 power guy holding 15 of my amber.
All right, what side are you on, JR? Because Dan and I are on clearly different sides of this guy.
I'm going to play middle ground.
Oh God!
Yeah, no,
Don't be that guy.
Yeah, well, that's where I am right now. I don't like the piece where it's capture 1. I don't think that taking 3 chains to steal 1 is going to be a good option, and I have to see how many Tide impact cards are out there. So if I can easily change the card, then I'm leaning towards Sea Urchin as being better, because I would take the poison. Because poison, if you tech me, it's going to go ahead and take it. If I tech you, it's there. I can take out some big creatures. With armor being a little more present.
Yeah, that does hurt the poison quite a bit.
So I lean towards this not being as good as Urchin, but it is dependent on how many Tide how many cards will impact the Tide very easily by playing them.
We'll see. I love my Urchin. All right. Anyway,
I moved on from Urchin. I got things in mass mutation.
Yeah, I mean, yes, Bo and Radpenny are better than Urchin. I'll readily admit this now. But anyway, I still love my Urchin. Okay. We have Rocketeer Triska. It is an evil twin. I'm scanning. We do not know the...
Do we want to go ahead and just tease that out? We're coming into that hour. Or you want to just push through? We may, because we got 3 more houses there, and we got some good stuff.
We only have 3-star alliance cards. So let's do the 3-star alliance, and then next week we will rock you out with Unfathomable, because we have a lot of those cards.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
Not a lot, but like more than any of the others. All right, so we have Star Alliance, Car 250. It is a creature. It is Rocketeer Triska. We know most of the text, I think, because it got kind of cut off, but I think we're able to finish it all together. It's a 4 power, 0 armor creature. It's a human with skirmish. Has a tide ability. While the tide is high, Rocketeer Triska enters play ready. This falls along the lines of what Bonesaw and Alaka.
Except you can guarantee that it's ready, which means it is.
No matter what, you can force her to be ready because you can obviously force the tide to be high.
Certain situations is real important, like against the Restaguntus deck.
And it has skirmish, so she's definitely probably the best ready, conditional ready creature we've seen. Right?
I mean, I'm not in love with this card, but it at least has use.
Right?
Yes.
Right? Yeah, and then the one in the Brobnar Worlds Collide, it doesn't matter because it's Worlds Collide Brobnar. It's bad.
Yeah, Alaka's bad.
Yeah, because it's in that house.
She is an evil twin, so we don't know her
original one.
Her original, and I don't know how often those evil twins are going to come up. So
true.
Yeah, and we don't know if she's a common or what. But what's the other little Worlds Collide 2-power Brobnar guy who readies for laying giants next to him? He does work. He's okay. 2-power skirmish, and this is 4-power skirmish, so this can definitely do some work.
That's
true.
Okay, so I
don't remember the name. It's the one that if you have Ganger Chieftain's real good.
Is it Stiltskin?
Yeah, Stiltskin.
I think it is Stiltskin.
Okay, sorry.
All right, Dan.
All right, our next one is another Star Alliance creature. His name is Scott, but spelled in silly leet speak. He's a creature. He's a robot. He's a 2-power, no armor kind of guy. He is a rare, so we're not going to see a lot of this. He's
wielding a lightsaber.
Okay. And he says, Reap, ready and use another friendly creature with the same power as Scott. You may give Scott +1 power counter or remove +1 power counter. So you don't have to even change power. So he's a Reap, use another creature of equal power, and then you can start building him up to change which creatures work with him. So he is a house cheat. And it is a ready and use. So
yep, that's real good.
These other cards can come in. This could be pretty good.
I don't think it's must kill level, but this is definitely at least Commander Remiel, Ulig Chan type of probably need to respond to this. The fact that it's ready and use is real important. Yeah. Doesn't matter what house, because a lot of Star Alliance dudes we know are ready and use non-Star Alliance or use non-Star Alliance. None of that's there. So this is it's like the old John Smith. It's that level of threat in regards to what it can do. So it's pretty high priority. It can definitely make things happen. And it doesn't have that non-agent thing. So if you have two of them,
yes,
you read for 6.
Yes.
That happens.
That's pretty cool. I was surprised they made it you may give him or remove one, and they didn't make it mandatory, so you couldn't have a cool read for 6 pair of them. That seems like something they would do, but they didn't.
It is a rare, so it is unlikely you would get 2, but you could get 2.
Yeah, a couple will be printed. Okay, and now we got our last one.
Finish this up, dear.
All right, Lieutenant Velmarts. It is a creature coming card number 296. Star Alliance, 3 power, 0 armor, alien scientist with a tide effect that says play, fight, read. Always nice. If the tide is high, keys cost +3 amber during your opponent's next turn.
So this is an improved Garcia, because you can always make the tide high, right?
Always make the tide high.
So it is an improved Garcia. It's +1 more. That's all this is.
Yeah, I think
with a cost.
Yeah, I mean, this is just better against non-set 5 and against set 5, depending on how much other tide stuff. We've seen. Did we see? 3
and it's at a common. It's at a common too.
Yeah, so it replaces Garcia.
Yeah.
So we saw 3 or 4 cards already that just make the tide go up. So I think the tide's going to be, flowing quite a lot during these games. So I think you will not have that much problem making it high when it's important.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of time, on a creature like this, if they're not on key, you don't even care. If you don't need to make the tide.
That's what I mean. That's why I'm saying this is a better version of Garcia, because it only matters when it matters. and you can force to spin those 3 chains anytime. And honestly, like when it matters the most is the latest in the game when chains are minimized in value the most anyway. So yeah, like I think it's strictly a better version of Garcia.
I wonder if they have a card in this set that is that's going to lock the tide to.
So like an artifact, like something like heart style.
Like the moon goes away, so the tide can't change anymore, or it just gets locked to neutral. Like that would be
interesting.
That could really wreck some deck 5 stuff.
All right, well, but that's all the way through card 296. I don't think we'll get more cards before next cast, but if not, we'll pick it up and start talking about Unfathomable, because this is where things get a little bit unfathomable. Right. Okay. Wrap us up, Dan.
All right, well, we still got Archon Corners dailies going every day at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. So you can come play in those. You can come talk with us on the Discord. Come watch our YouTube channel where we have all of our Amber Rush 16 videos coming out. And you can make fun of WOOKIE on Twitter. So come find us in all those places.
Any last words, JR?
Take care. Stay healthy, everyone.
Yes, stay healthy. I'm going to prepare for my Archon Scorn Chainbound match tonight, right now. See you guys.
See you later.
No diggity, darling. I like the way you work it. 1738. No diggity, darling. I'm about to bang. 1738. No diggity, darling. I like the way you work it. I'm about to bag it up. No diggity, darling. I'm about to bag it up.